Hi there. It's been a while since I've just kind of sat and worked with the Akasha on here on the live. And so there's been a lot of really cool energy coming through this month. And I haven't been on here in a few weeks, and I've just kind of been in it in the experience with everybody in my comeback story program in a really beautiful event that I was part of. Hi, Linda. And just in the work, but I want to share more of what's been coming through um, because it's very exciting, and it feels like I want to share this. I want to share this with you if you happen to come across this right now, and maybe it's the right timing for you to hear about this as well. So you'll see that this live is called, hi, Roxanne and Linda, good to see you. You'll see that this live is called The Age of the Storyteller. And when I think back to my life, I realize that storytelling has always been a huge part of my essence. From the time I was a really little kid, we have my mom still has like notebook after notebook of drawings I used to make of all of these like very intense, dramatic stories of like personal challenge and revelation and like all these it from like people around the world in these kind of experiences that there was no way I would have ever had. So that might have been the beginnings of like, hey, maybe you're channeling something from the Akashic records, but I wouldn't figure that out until later on. And my dad was a singer and a musician and a songwriter, and my mom is a interior designer, and she really loves telling the story of the space of a space and the fabrics and the colors and the textures, and everyone in my family are just like really great storytellers and really funny. So that was kind of always there. And then when I was growing up, I loved music and photography and journalism, and I was really always very passionate about telling the story through the written word and through photography and music. And, you know, as I really developed into a healer and a practitioner starting in my early 20s, like once I really landed on this, the one spiritual tool, I've been trained in many modalities and kind of do a blend of things. But many of you know, like the one modality I really work with and teach and attune people with is the Akashic Records, which is really about opening and translating a story. And I was just found this card. I'm actually in my house that I grew up in because we're in a transition period of like getting ready to sell the house, and I'm supporting my mom with that. And it's been interesting because I'm definitely getting to close the loop. Hey, Steph, on a lot of origin story experiences from here. Like there's just open loops in my life that I realized started here that I've been closing while I've been here, like the last month or so. And I just found my business card. I know this is going to look upside down from like 12 years ago. And on the back, I wrote, and this was when I just started to really begin to feel the soul board meeting experience was coming through, and understanding that I was channeling energy and translating a story and starting to do that in groups and with individuals. Like that was when that was really starting to like pop, where it's like, oh, that's like all I'm going to do. And the in the back of this card says an incredible story begins to unfold with you as the main character. So I wanted people to get this business card and see the back and start to understand like that's the work. And so I've been thinking of that because the last couple years for me has been all about storytelling, because I had all these losses and dramatic experiences happen kind of all together. And I just got this real clear hit a few years ago that I was going to need support to tell the story of what happened with my brother, and just unraveling the full experience of the career I had had with my brother for 15 years that really initiated from the loss of our father and from that sort of story. And then when you get into business and marketing your work, I'm sure many of you on here know, like you just have to learn to share your story, to tell your story, to explain the story. But I knew I was going to have to do it in a new way. And so I actually have been writing a memoir. In the fall, it'll be 2 years that I've been working with Lizzie Vance, who maybe Lizzie Apple, maybe I'll text her on here, tag her on here. And it's been such a vulnerable experience of telling the story and first having to unravel like all these stories of my life that had been inside my body that I'd never told, and then getting clear on what the story is. And I hope every person gets to have that experience one day, that you just start to get some time and space to unravel all the really life-changing stories, all those moments in life, that created your life, that have been living inside of you and expressing in different ways, and really get that chance. And from there, we were able to really put together like what the actual story I was here to tell was. And I had to do some research on understanding storytelling and the heroine's journey and the hero's journey and like all the different narrative journeys you can use. So I've been like unraveling that, and it started with like, it was so vulnerable when I first started doing that. And so it started with just like writing things down and like having emails I was going to send to Lizzie, who is working with me, and it was a 2-year contract, and she knows what she's doing. And I would be like, in my email drafts, there'd be apology emails that I was like waiting to send her, to be like, I'm so sorry you have to read that story. I know it's so intense. No one's ever heard that story. Until finally I just had to realize, like, if like I can't do this with her if I'm gonna have to send these emails. And now we're at the point where, we're way beyond that. We're deep in the story work together. And obviously in my own work with people, I unravel really deep, intense stories all the time, but it's very vulnerable. And that's why I always honor and celebrate the vulnerability of people who work with me, and really unravel the incredible story with you as the main character. So I've been thinking about that a lot. And then more and more in my own practice, my own work with people, it's just been so clear that like the only thing I want to do is help people to tell their story. And beyond just having the amazing experience of a session where the Akashic energy is here and we're channeling and we're unraveling the story, what I call it, the story beneath the story. We're unraveling all of that. I've really felt passionate about, it's been so powerful to really understand my story. I've been so passionate about how I could support other people to learn how to tell their story and to really understand these specific moments in life. And, you know, it's interesting because I think we're at a time where we are really seeing the fight to value the human storytelling experience. The things that are going on right now with these strikes and with, you know, the technology, we've created technology that really supports everyone to be a storyteller. And we're also like in this sort of conflict of how to better value the experience of hearing someone's story and the absolute gift of the storytellers of our culture. And so I've been thinking about that a lot, and I just have had this really powerful month where more of that came through. So I've been feeling that and feeling that. And then I realized like I really wanted to support people to get clear on their own comeback story. So some of you saw I have this program right now called the Life Ignition Blueprint. And it's all about activating your own comeback in any place you've had a setback, you've felt kind of in your cave, you've sort of been offline. Like, that's obviously been a journey I've been in the last few years. And so once I was out of the cave, I knew I wanted to support people in that experience. And so we're almost halfway through the container, and it's been really beautiful. We have about 50 people in it. And it's really fun because it's people from all over the world, which is so great, because a lot of times when I'm working with people, it's like pockets of people in a specific, I get a lot of referrals. So it'll be like a pocket of people in a specific part of the world or part of the country or type of career. And I love getting these opportunities to work with people from all over the world in all types of life experiences, and getting to see the stories and the resonant stories that come together. So we've all been here together in this journey, telling telling the comeback story, right? Like really activating that comeback story. And a few couple weeks ago, 10 days ago, yikes, recently, August 9th to 12th, I believe, I was at, hey Jess, I was at Perry Chase's event called Lineage, which was so cool and was really a transmission of a lot of different experiences and connections and ceremonies and art, and it's just a celebration of the ancient art of storytelling and healing through story, through, well, I'll just keep it to what I experienced there. But it was really about understanding the soul and the lineage and the human and the personality and the ancestry. And that was so exciting for me because if you've done an Akashic um, session with me before, you know that, hi Jenny, you know that I always call upon the soul lineage. And I'm always calling upon the you beyond the story beneath the story, but also the you beyond this personality and the you beyond this ancestry. Like, let's work with that. And also, what else needs to come through? So it was so exciting and so inspiring to see just such a magnificent experience of healing and celebration and generosity and creativity working with the soul lineage. I just was blown away. And one of the messages I got really strongly in one of the ceremony experiences we had, and guess what else was so cool about it is like so many people I love from my soul lineage were there, and also Lizzie, who's supporting me to write the book, was there. So that was just so exciting because when the first night I got this really strong message um, about the storytelling, about how strongly I've felt that kind of throughout my life, but especially these last couple years, and just seeing my work just keeps crystallizing into like that's really what it's about. Just the idea that well, that we're in the last few generations of humans living in this way. And I don't mean that as like an end of humanity or an end of earth, but all of us can tell there's a lack of sustainability in all different facets of the human experience right now with how we've been living on this planet. And so I just got a really clear message about that and that it is such an important time for us to remember all the most important gifts of this planet, all the most important teachings and abilities of who we've been on this planet, remembering all of our gifts and all of the special things we've created together on earth, and really reconnect with that so that we have the stories and how important it is to be able to tell your beautiful story of this lifetime, the soul lineage story, but to really understand your personality story too of this lifetime. Because all the stories, this is such a, I always say this and maybe everyone says this, but it's just such an unprecedented time. And all of us here on earth are living such an unprecedented, special story that contributes to these sort of generations where we're really having to understand we're at the end of something. And so And so I just got that so strongly that it's just the time to be a storyteller, that we've always revered storytellers. We've always known that's how we learn and grow and heal and transform. And that it's the time for all of us to remember and connect with our own archetype of being a storyteller and to understand how precious your clear transmission of your own story and your own experience of being on the planet at this time is, and the way that will be inherited. And this, how will it be inherited? Through the body, through the etheric Akashic record, through technology, perhaps. There's probably going to be many ways, but like we first have to really connect with our own understanding of ourselves as a storyteller. So that's like been this big thing that I've been feeling and experiencing that I haven't gotten to share. I haven't really shared it on here in this way for this long, and it's just kind of the work I've been doing, not on here, but I really want to share it. And so, I'm curious to hear what you're feeling and hearing about that. I'm gonna take out these because I think they're about to die because I've been on them. So if you can't hear me, if you Oh, I feel I'm called to tell my story now. Beautiful. Yeah. It's like a real calling, and I can just tell you, like, I'm just around so many people. I have the opportunity to be around a lot of people connecting with their comeback story, being around all these, like, hundreds of amazing people at this event who are really calling in the story of their soul and the story of this lifetime. And so it is. And just all of a sudden, we're now having this this global conversation about valuing storytellers. It's real and it's big, and I really am excited for you to hear what that's going to be. So when I decided to write this memoir, something I realized right away, when you realize you want to write a memoir and you realize it's like the reason you want to have someone help you is that you have to get real about what stories are storytelling that's cathartic for you, and what are the stories that are actually going to be a healing transmission for someone else to read. And we can sometimes get our wires mixed a little bit on that. Oh, beautiful. I've been contemplating how to tell my story with art and prose. Oh, I love hearing that. So we can get the wires crossed where it's like the story we think no one wants to hear is actually the story. And the story we think everyone won't understand us unless they hear these details will sometimes be like, actually, that one's just for you, you know? So it's really, really a good idea to have someone give you reflection when you're ready for that. So something I realized when I was going to tell this memoir, and I knew that it's like a memoir that I want to share, and it's healing for myself, but I really do want to share it with the world. And so it was like, wow, like I need to be an accurate narrator. And that's the piece I want to complete with here. And then we're going to do a little energy. But it was like, wow, if I'm going to tell a story and it's going to live on as like this contained thing that I'm going to share with the world. And once the book started to be written, it was very clear the book is about the worst 3 years of my life. I wanted it to be about something else, but it's not. That's what it's about. And I knew that these are years of my life where it was like, okay, no wonder it's going to take some time. No wonder it's going to take edit after edit after edit, because how do I become an accurate narrator about something that is felt so deeply wrong and unfair? So I just want to like give us a moment here, because it seems like people are this is resonating for some people with like, yes, I'm feeling the story, and also maybe you're watching this recorded and you're getting that. So I want to just, before I say anything else about that, I want to just sort of take a moment here, and I invite you to just like sit into the energy of your own inner storyteller. Because also, by the way, a lot of personal growth things, it's like, oh, that's been my story. It kind of becomes a negative thing. But like, there's a beautiful story of truth inside of you to share. So let's breathe here for a second and just breathe in some space and some possibility. Exhaling out, bringing that into your throat. And now connecting with your heart. And now connecting with that inner storyteller. Exhaling out. And for many of us, you're going to like just want to put some attention on the throat. Just grounding, feeling your hips relax, your pelvis. It's safe to tell your story. This is a lifetime where it's safe to tell your story. Breathing in the safety and the freedom that we only find from the truth. The truth is true and all is well. You know, that's my mantra that's carried me through this whole journey of this work. So it's safe to tell your story. And you're ready to be an accurate narrator. So just connecting right now, first thought, best thought, what is my story that I'm here to tell? First thought, best thought. Beautiful. And there's no pressure to figure it all out. Just connecting with the energy of the story now, letting it be a color, an image, a word, seeing it in front of you, visualizing it in front of you, and then breathing that in. So if you've done sessions with me before, you know we breathe in a lot of images because they are actually a frequency that's being shown. So breathing in the image of the story you're here to share, the true story, breathing that in. Exhaling out, letting that land in your body. Noticing how that feels in your body. Now beginning to feel the guides, the guardians, the people that will appear who will support that journey. Just feeling that energy in your field. Nothing needs to change in your life. You're just starting to connect with the energy of who you're here to be as a sacred, true storyteller. How sacred and precious the story of your life. It doesn't have to be any different than it is. You know, I've gotten the privilege to sit with so many people and hear so many stories, and everybody's story is fascinating. It really is. The true story of your life is fascinating. And the way you will share that story could be creatively with right or not. Like there's all different ways we share the energy of the true story. And so just feeling that, taking off a layer of pressure if you think sharing it or working with the story has to look a certain way. And now calling in more support, more connection to this true story. And now just feeling, what would it mean to be the accurate narrator of the story? What would it mean? If I were the accurate narrator of the true story of my life, nothing more, nothing less, then I would... What's the next part of the sentence for you? And so when you have that, breathe that in. Just getting familiar with the frequency of whatever it is to be an accurate narrator of this story. Breathing that in. Exhaling out, letting that land in your body. Nothing else needs to change. You're just getting connected with the frequency. And feel free to put here if there's anything you're feeling you want to share, you want to reflect. So yes, so I was realizing I had to become an accurate narrator to share something that wasn't just cathartic, but actually was the full transmission I was meant to share from the life I've had. And there was something that really I've noticed comes up a lot in all the types of spiritual work and personal growth programs I've done. And something I noticed last week when I came back from the event I was at, and then I was working with my comeback story people, I guess students, people. Like we were in this surrender, like we're at the part of this experience where we start with surrender and just letting things be what they've been. Then we start to lift up and we can start to see things in a different perspective. And then from that place, we can begin to become the storyteller. So there's like 4 doors we work through in this program. The third door is we begin to like give the wisdom and share the medicine that heals us by sharing and heals others by sharing, which is kind of the stage I'm in now with the things I've been through. But I'm 4 years out, a little over 4 years out, right? But it was like I had to go through all those different doors, and
I might have to cycle them again. But for example, this experience right now is the third door. And so, what I realized for us to surrender is that we had to think about that accurate narrator thing. And we had to think about, well, these are the two things we talked about. And I've just seen this a lot being discussed online. And it's the idea of understanding victim consciousness and the victim triangle. And so Lynn Forrest is a great person to learn that from if you want to learn the real like classical understanding of that. Perry Chase just shared something really cool around that as well. Amy Batuski and Ellie Montgomery, two of my great friends as well, share with this. A lot of people, it's like really important to understand before you begin a healing endeavor. It's really important to understand that. And so I'm just going to give you my explanation of how we shared about that in the Comeback Story program. When I came back, it was funny. I came back and it was like, oh, this is what we need. And then I saw a lot of other people having discourse around that online. So I'm going to talk about it as the victim triangle, which is like everything we all have a starting gate. We're often moving through life on this triangle, and we all sort of have our typical starting gate where we usually find ourselves. And there's the victim who is having something happen to them. There's the perpetrator who is victimizing, and there's the rescuer who's rescuing the victim. And that's where they get their sense of purpose. And really everyone in that victim, rescuer, perpetrator triangle is just trying to have their needs met. And when I opened the Akashic records before I was going to teach about that, and kind of get the Akashic read on that, what I heard was, in our society, we are taught to be a victim, to have our needs met. And oftentimes in order to participate in getting needs met, like you sort of have to hold a victim pose. My example of that was that, and I write about this in the book, but one of the biggest spiritual healing, karmic healing experiences of my lifetime will be the lawsuit that I participated in after my brother passed. And I knew when I was going to do that, in order to do this, I have to hold the pose of victim. Like, I can understand the deeper spiritual meaning of what's going on. And I know a big healing is going to happen through this legal accountability. And this is how this works, right? Like, I have to be willing to hold that energy. And it was hard. And I had to hold that energy for like 2 years. And I also felt really lonely and isolated, and there was a lot of grief. And anyone who's had big losses in your life, like as it goes on and it feels like other people are kind of living again and you're just kind of in it, whatever your version of loss is, it can be really easy to stay in that position of just feeling really victimized by your life experience. And so that was also why I needed more time to write this book, and I needed the support of sisterhood and these different teachers and healers that are in my world that started to help me come out again. Because I can't be an accurate narrator if I'm feeling victimized. I can't be an accurate narrator of the story. And that doesn't mean bypassing, by the way, bypassing the pain. It means to be an accurate narrator, I can't just live inside of being victimized by this. I have to be bigger than that. But I think there's just times where we're going to feel victimized, where in the situation we are in that role, right? And so I just had to spend some time there. And sometimes we do. And that's how I got my needs met to be able to do this lawsuit, for example. Then I noticed in a lot of the healing and personal growth world, we oftentimes will end up being in the role of rescuer. So like what happened with my family with all that illness, it was like we so didn't want to be victims. I so didn't ever want to be victimized by what happened, which was why it was really great to let myself be victimized for a little while, because I spent my whole teens and 20s going through all this illness and loss and like never allowing myself to be the victim. So then I just was really thought, oh, I'll heal everyone. This all happened because we didn't know enough. And now I know everything. The illness happened because we didn't know enough. And so now I'll just rescue everyone and try to rescue everyone from their painful initiations and find my purpose in that. And oftentimes in the healing and spiritual world, we can end up sort of being in that role. And then there's the persecutor. And what came through from the Akasha was right now our media really encourages persecution, divisiveness, cancellations, blaming each other, shaming each other, calling each other out. And it's created people who are running around this world in the role of persecutor and thinking that's how the needs will be met, thinking they're actually supporting others in that pose. So it's something I've been thinking about a lot because I think it's like I'm seeing a lot of discourse where on one hand you have to understand and listen, I'm giving you like a little short little download on it. Like there's more to understand about this. And I'm also giving you like the Akashic reflection of how we can think about it. But it's important to understand before you go deeply into unraveling your story, you know, so that you can be an accurate narrator, because the truth is what heals us. The truth is what empowers us. The truth is where we find our freedom. And we find the truth when we're being an accurate narrator of our story and our life. And we sometimes will overcorrect. We take too much accountability, right? I overcorrected for so much of my adult life because it was a trauma response, you know? And also because I thought like the worst thing to be would be to be a victim, you know? And so we can overcorrect, or sometimes we need to hang out in persecutor or victim, or, you know, like sometimes these roles are just part of the human experience. But when you're ready to really connect with being that sacred storyteller, you want to get into being an accurate narrator. Another thing we talked about that day, which I don't know if you guys remember when I taught this class last year, but now it's going to definitely be part of this comeback story container. I brought it into it last week, is knowing how to alchemize disappointment. So oftentimes we stay in this triangle because of disappointment. We keep life smaller because of disappointment. Our story, the story we're telling, is like glazed over with disappointment. And I go deeper into that. I might actually run that again soon. It's so good, and I find it so valuable when you're really wanting to tell the true story, not necessarily a different story, but the true story, is to really understand your relationship to disappointment and how much value and richness is there when you unpack your experience with disappointment. So yeah, how do we become an accurate narrator? I think through time and space. For me, I'll just give myself, but I've seen this process for so many people I've worked with. It's like you need some time, you need some space, you need some permission to be where you're at. You need some loving accountability to begin to get new reflections, new ways of looking at the patterns, of looking at the details. And yeah, and more reverence and understanding, I think, of how beautiful the story is and how healing it is to have the totality story, where kind of the lens of being on any one part of that triangle, for example, starts to dissolve, and you start to just get to be with the real energy. And that takes some time. You don't have to have it overnight. I felt so much pressure to be able to tell the story and be done. I thought I was going to be done with this memoir in like within a year, and it had to like be the next thing I did with my work. And like it's been this really humbling process of realizing, revealing the true story and revealing your sacred storyteller. You get to have access to that right now, but like being able to really land the whole thing and create the story and really refine into the accuracy that you want to share, so that we come into our purpose in this lifetime of really gathering these magnificent human experiences that are happening in these generations on the planet, and sharing the tools, sharing the teaching, sharing the reconnections that we're having right now. Like that's going to take some time and space, and I think community. So that's what I wanted to share today. I haven't shared in a longer, long form way like this in a while. But I'd love to hear, and you're saying my mom is moving through an incredibly difficult karmic lesson. I wish I could rescue her. And the interesting thing was she was my victimizer. Yeah. Yeah. So we just see people move through their things. What I would want to reflect, Jen, and like what I've learned through just holding space for many people, holding space for myself too, is like we have to respect people's journeys. We have to respect that every person's path has value, and like it doesn't hit the same. You don't receive the medicine if it's just being like thrown at you. Like you have to take the medicine. And so everyone's here for a different story, and like I've really had to learn how to have deep respect for someone's journey and to not put my overlay of how I think it should have been or if it should have been longer. That's, I have that a lot with a lot of people in my life, this feeling like I needed to hold. We need to help them or support them or change how they're being, or if they only knew the tool, or in my case, I've just felt like I got to be the storyteller for everyone who died too early in my family. And I'm just starting to have the realization of they downloaded the story that they needed to tell here, and it's here. It's on the planet. It's in the people that connected with them and in the ways they had a ripple effect. And now I need to hold my story. And so I really hear you saying that with what you shared here. And I appreciate that. You love the version of the Akasha I teach because it's very relational. Yeah, it's really just a way to have a relationship to everything. That's how I think about the Akashic field. It's a way to have a conversation and a relationship with anything we can conceive of, and also be mentored by that and realize it's the energy we need, not the energy that we want. And that's even true of story. When we really connect with the true story we're sharing, it's not always the story we wanted to share. As I said, this book I was hoping was not about this but it's the truth, and it's actually a beautiful story, and I actually am really loving editing it now, but boy, it took some time. So yeah, I just wanted to share that today. Feel free to leave comments or questions. If you're interested in being in the next round of the comeback story group, I'm definitely doing this again. It's so good and so powerful, and it's just what I'm here to do, and I know it's what people are here to have in their own experience, is to find their way to the true story of their life and begin living from that place. And or if you have any questions about the Akashic records. But we'll just end now by just tuning back in with the energy before we complete. So just taking a few breaths here. Breathing in some space for your own story. And actually, as we complete, I just invite you to feel the energy of your own story at your heart. And protect it. We also live in a time where we feel like we need to share everything right away, and I just feel to say, you deserve to protect your story, your special story. It will unfold, and the sharing of it will unfold in the right way at the right time. And time and space is what is required. And the next comeback story, I think January would be a great time. That's what I've been thinking, is like a new year. Kind of the new year could be a beautiful time. So I'll start sharing more about it before then. But yeah, I'll put some links below. So nice to connect with you all who are here. It's been a while since we've connected live. And yeah, just wanted to share that. Sending lots of love. Sending a lot of gratitude to have the space to share your story, to share my story, and holding the vision that we all become the accurate narrators of the special story we're here to bring. We're here to create. We're here to write. in whatever way writing ends up being. Might be typing, it might not. Just holding that vision that we're all here, creating that, living in the fulfillment of that, being nourished by knowing our own true story. All right. Have a beautiful day, beautiful night. I'm here to connect if you'd like to talk more about this. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.